21 years, I think, since the first Unreal Engine.
Yeah.
Did you foresee that it would end up like this, Tim, or were you just happy enough to get the first one out there?
No, it was a long process of realizing what was going to be possible. I hadn't even envisioned that 3D graphics would be practical on any device that any normal person owned until John Carmack released Wolfenstein 3D and then Doom. At that point, I just felt we should get out of games because it's hopeless. I'll never compete with this. But over time, I got into it and figured out how to make that stuff work. But computers now are 10 million times faster than when I started programming. I think it was around 1981. And there's no other field in the history of humankind where our technology has gotten 10 million times better in that time period. So now we've gone from just barely being able to render what looks like a 3D scene at 320 by 200 resolution in the Unreal 1 days, all the way up to nearly photorealistic digital humans, and it's completely unexpected.
What's the challenge then of making tools in this new environment, to keep audiences entertained and to keep them coming back to consuming this sort of content?
Well, there are really two problems. First of all, producing photorealistic pixels requires just simulating everything that light and surfaces do in the real world. And the nuances of that are incredibly detailed, especially when you get to something like a human where we have millions of years of evolution causing us to expect certain things from a human face or eyes or hair. And it's just taken an enormous amount of work to support that. But the other major area for developers is productivity. Even though the technology we build might be capable of producing photorealistic content, the cost of producing it is a huge limiting factor for us. It's why there are 1 million indie games in the industry, but only a few games of the level of Red Dead Redemption or GTA.
And do you think, is photorealism the mecca then for people like yourself? Is that what you're trying to strive towards?
Well, photorealism is one measure, but I think what we really want to do is enable artists to achieve their vision productively, whatever style they want. From something stylized in the kind of Pixar style like Fortnite to something photoreal to anything in between. I think we want artists to be unimpeded in realizing the vision they have for their look.
When you consider the work that's been done on the Unreal Engine, what's the thing you're most proud of then, in terms of that journey that's happened over the last 21 years?
Well, I think one of the trends, we've been usually pretty late to recognize the trends that are shaping the industry. They usually happen without much recognition in advance, but the most incredible thing has been in the adoption of Unreal outside of the game industry without our even pushing it. We read a survey in an architecture magazine that cited that Unreal had 30% market share for architectural visualization, and we had no idea. Yeah. But it was because people who were architects needed a real-time tool to visualize their worlds, and Unreal was a free download, and they just found that it could do everything they needed. So we've been really astonished to find that the tools that we've been building to help game developers build games have reached a level where suddenly they're the most attractive solution for everybody who wants to do real-time computer graphics.
Which also, for the film and television industry as well, to an extent.
Yeah, that's right. Even 10 years ago, there was a little bit of game engine use when they'd be pre-visualizing a movie and kind of storyboarding it out. They'd do some rough cuts in engines, including Unreal. But most recently, we've seen the adoption of Unreal for real-time production of final pixels and real-time virtual production on a movie set where you can have 100 different devices, and anybody can look through any camera in the scene and see a real-time composition of the humans in the scene with the green screen and the CG that has been pre-built for it. And it gets us back to this magical time of film production when a director could actually look through their camera and see everything and make really great calls about shots based on the appearance of the thing. And in the age of CG, for a long time that was lost, and now it's being brought back. So I think we're going to see game engines completely revolutionize film and television production and ultimately help the creatives produce better results. Yeah. Because it is real time and because they can see exactly what the final scene will look like when they're looking through their camera.
When I interviewed you about 4 years ago at Gamescom in a pokey room in the corner with really bad air conditioning, and you said to me then that the role of indie games and their influence on major AAA titles was about to sort of amplify even more than they had been in the past. And you've sort of been proven right in that in the last few years with sort of the explosion of influences of games like Rocket League and titles like Fortnite and what have you. Is that something that you look on with fond memories, or is that something that you think would have happened anyway, regardless of Unreal?
No, I think that's one of the great things about both Unreal and Unity is they've enabled this democratization of game engines so that anybody who has a great idea can realize it without building a huge set of technologies themselves. It enables the creatives to express their vision. And it's kind of freed the game business away from the tyranny of having huge products and budgets and production schedules, because now a small team can go in and produce a smaller game that just so thoroughly explores one unique idea that they can invent new genres. You know, like the game PUBG arose from a very small team, 30 or 40 people working for a year, using mainly assets from the Unreal Engine marketplace to put together a game experience, and it became one of the most successful games of all time. I think that proves that indies are going to reshape the industry. With games like Rocket League also. These are not AAA scale productions, but they proved that a lot of major genres of games are yet to be invented still.
Yeah, and talking of major genres of games, of course, Fortnite is a title that's gone and changed the industry in the last few years. When you hear that or see the impact that Fortnite is having on the industry, how does that make you feel?
It's really amazing. Epic set out with a lot of big goals in their history, but like making dancing cool again among kids is not one of them. And
I was going to ask you to floss, Tim, but maybe not.
No, but it's really amazing to see a whole new generation. Epic started out as like a bunch of young, 20-year-olds building a bunch of games, together, and now to see, we're older, but there's a whole new generation of people growing up playing these types of games, and we're also seeing a neat point in the game industry where games are becoming increasingly social experiences, right? The magic of Fortnite isn't just it's like a fun game with some unique elements to it. It's that people can play together in large social groups across all platforms, and so the way they play the game is as much social as it is a game experience. We find they spend an awful lot of time just sitting around in the lobby, talking to each other and emoting and dancing, because it's really just friends chatting with each other. The gameplay is almost secondary to that for a lot of people.
Yeah, and in terms of you mentioned it there, the word cross-platform, how significant do you think that's going to be in the years to come, and the work that you're doing on the engine to make sure that is relatively easy for people to do? Because it seems to be what the consumers want, right?
Yeah, I think that is going to be everything for the future of the game industry. The fact that people can play together with all of their friends across all platforms. Imagine the world of social networks if people on iOS couldn't talk to people on Android and the PC users were a different network again. The dynamics of the modern world would just break down in that environment. But that's been the story of gaming for the past 20 years. It's been bifurcated by platform and interoperability barriers. And now that those have come down, we've seen much, much higher levels of game engagement than we've ever seen before. And now Fortnite really started this trend recently. It's been much more widely adopted now. Dauntless shipped recently, and Epic Games Store and Xbox on PlayStation, seamless crossplay between all platforms. And I think players are coming to expect it. And these social groups are going to say no to games where only a few of the friends in a group can play together because the other platforms aren't a part of it.
It just makes your job a lot harder.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it means there's a whole new set of considerations for game developers. It seems like, I said like 15 years ago that there are at least 10 elements of a game that you have to get every one of them right. And if you mess up any one of these elements, the whole game fails, right? It's the audio, it's the visuals, it's the gameplay, it's the feel of the controls. It's a lot of these intangibles, but it seems like every generation we just add a few more. And now it's multi-platform, it's supporting mobile devices, it's having a great social experience. It's about not alienating any player that comes in. The most amazing thing is, the shooter genre of games has all been like 95%, guys. But Fortnite is a 35% female population. That's totally remarkable for a shooter. We see some games like Tencent's Honor of Kings is 50% female, but I think what we've done is we built a game that has so few reasons to reject it. You know, that it's okay for everybody, right? You're not like picking a bunch of male soldiers to play, right? You have a variety of characters you can play with. You know, a soldier, a cute costume, or anything, male, female, any style you like, or you can play as a banana, and it's kind of universally acceptable.
You know, you were the first game to have Keanu Reeves in it as well. Yeah, it's quite big news this week, isn't it?